lot of people dream of going into their own business and being their own boss, but too few ever act on it. And I can tell you from my experience that going into my own business was one of the best decisions I ever made. Over the years, I've started 4 successful businesses, all from scratch, all successful. With your own business, you should make more money, but what's more important is you'll control the events in your life instead of someone else controlling them for you. What keeps people from pulling the trigger on this dream? Well, maybe overthinking it, making excuses. There sure are many. What about you? Have you ever thought about it? If so, what's holding you back? Let me know in the comments. I'm very interested. First, let me say that not everyone's cut out for starting their own business. They don't have what I like to call the fire in the belly. They'd rather keep their comfortable $60,000 a year job, clock out at 5 o'clock on the dot, sleep late on Saturday. Rather do that than maybe making $500,000 a year or more. But that's okay too. That's fine. Everyone's different. Sometimes they call it job security. But let's talk about that job security. Today, more than ever, people are waking up to the idea that job security is becoming a myth. Not long ago, people worked for the same company for decades, then retired with a nice pension. But for most workers now, those days are long gone. Consider surprise cutbacks and layoffs, businesses closing down, businesses getting consolidated, sold, or merged with other businesses. Or your boss wants to bring in somebody he knows and replaces you. Or your job is getting moved, closing down this office and maybe moving it to Detroit. Nothing against Detroit, by the way. Or maybe you get a miserable new boss. That kind of stuff happens. So there surely are many secure jobs out there, I agree. But many people do work at the mercy of the ever-changing business environment. So there's a young man who was working as a valet while attending college. He was parking cars for a nice restaurant, college money. But he saw the tenuous nature of this gig work. Valets oftentimes didn't show up, or there were not enough customers on any given evening. So valets were not making enough money and became sort of unreliable. He knew this business, a fairly simple business, and he saw the problems. Today, he owns a valet service business. He's got valet stands all over the city that he operates in, and he has contractual relationships, agreements with the good restaurants, hotels, and so on. He guarantees valet coverage to the businesses. The business plan he devised factors in that sometimes when there are not enough customers, he still needs to pay the valets. So for that, they always show up. They're going to get paid. His deal with his customers is that they will always have the crucial coverage they need, and for that guarantee, the restaurant or hotel or whatever pays him a fee. It's a sweet little business. He saw a problem and created an opportunity. One of my favorite stories is a guy I used to know pretty well in business. While he was attending college, he began a lending business. Now, this is several decades ago, but this guy had saved up some money as a teenager, college student, and he'd make loans to college students. I'm sure they were small loans, generally for one miscellaneous reason or another, but because they were short-term advances in small amounts, he charged some pretty high interest rates. When he graduated, he had already established a pawn shop and a payday lending business. And whether we like the concept of payday lending or not is not relevant for this discussion. But when I met him, he had something like 300 stores in his geographical area, and he was worth millions. Many millions. I love these stories, so just one more. Please, indulge me. I knew a young guy who was driving a truck for a living. Paycheck, boss, someone else's rules, and so on. One day, this guy decided he could make more money tending to other people's lawns, so he quit his job and started a landscaping business. Over the years, his customer base grew, his business expanded beyond just cutting grass, doing a lot of other higher level things. It's now become a very successful family business. There is unlimited opportunity out there. Your skills your creativity, or your ability to find a solution or a niche are just some of the keys to get you started. Now, I should probably tell you a little bit about myself. You may be thinking, hey, these are great stories, but show me the beef. I appreciate that. And I really don't want to talk about myself, but that's a fair question. I basically earned my living for the last 30 plus years in what I like to call an eat what you kill basis. You should make this term your own if you truly want to be your own boss. This means no guaranteed salary, just you, your skills, and your results. You either perform or you don't eat. Now that may sound tough, but if you got what it takes, it's the most rewarding way to live and work. I first started my business with about $5,000 in capital, a computer, 2 empty file cabinets, and a fax machine. Okay, that was a long time ago. Fax machine. I rented a 10 by 15 foot office, and for the first couple of years, my feet never seemed to hit the ground. I was going pretty fast, pretty much 7 days a week. Still making some time for my family, who were very supportive. And every few months, I would hire and train a new employee. I hired and trained top talented people. I paid them well, and I promised to share the success of the business with them. In turn, they eventually became involved in hiring and training people too. I'll save the details of that business for future videos, perhaps part 2 of this one, and for my private consulting clients. But in the 8 years, the business had grown to approximately 300 employees. It was recognized on the Inc. 500 list as one of the fastest growing small businesses in the USA, and received other awards and accolades. And it made money. That's enough of that story for now, but I'm a believer in entrepreneurship. It's the American dream, and you can take part of that dream. Look around at what you're doing now. Can you do this on your own? Do you have a skill, something unique? Or better, do you have a skill that's in high demand? One example I'd like to see you start is a home concierge type connected service business. You know, those folks that know all about mesh routers, IP addresses, and smart or not so smart TVs. I know a little bit about this stuff myself, but there are many, many people out there who are held hostage by, say, a Wi-Fi port conflict, for example. How about this person? She just got home from work. Tough day at the office. She worked hard. On the way home, she picked up some groceries and a carryout. All she wanted to do was come home, put her feet up, and watch some brainless TV while she ate her dinner. She grabbed that remote, clicked on that TV she watches every night, and she got this message. No internet connection. If this problem persists, call your internet service provider. How many people have seen that message? People don't want to waste 3 hours on hold with their internet service provider, rebooting this and that. They just want somebody to maintain their connected home, somebody who can walk through the door and fix it, take a phone call and fix it, tell her what to do. There used to be something called the Geek Squad. Years ago, I paid them a hefty annual fee for in-home service and 24/7 access, and I don't think this exists any longer. And I just gathered this from the fact that whenever I try to call someone, I get somebody in another country. I could be wrong, but I don't think the 24/7 home service is available any longer. But in the past, when these talented men and women would come to my house to do an install or a repair, I would wonder why these folks didn't consider going into business for themselves. Surely with all the connected devices in our home, our reliance on the internet, surely there's a demand for this business. Just saying. That's one example. So now you're thinking, well, I wish I'd done this when I was younger. We all know about Zuckerberg, age 19. Started his business in a college dorm room. Became the youngest billionaire in history. But really many businesses, I dare say most, are started by people who have a lot more world experience. I told you about my brief story. But here's a few real standouts to think about. How about Colonel Sanders? He failed at multiple jobs. It wasn't until age 62 he started selling chicken from his roadside restaurant. At age 65, he franchised what we now know as KFC, Kentucky Fried Chicken. And he became a multimillionaire after most people retire. Or Ray Kroc. I bet a lot of you recognize that name right away. Age 52, he was a traveling milkshake machine salesman. He discovered a small burger stand run by the McDonald Brothers. Yep, you guessed it. He bought it, franchised it, and created the McDonald's empire. And how about Sam Walton? Now, he had some early retail experience, but he founded Walmart at age 44. He took a small town discount store and created the world's largest retailer. So we know how all these stories turned out. In my experience, I've encountered many, many, many more stories of successful entrepreneurs. And you can do it too. You don't need a lot of money. In my opinion, the most important thing you need is drive and determination. Fire in the belly. So what's your motivation? That's a good place to start. I'm going to reveal to you, my YouTube audience, one of my major motivators. Now, I don't talk about this much, but I never wanted to be poor. And I wasn't so concerned about how much money I could possibly make, the yachts, the properties, the vacations. I was more concerned about never living in poverty. You see, I was raised poor. I grew up in a housing project. For a while, my family was on assistance. I remember wearing shoes to school. They were issued by the Wayne County Department of Social Services. But I worked from the age of 12. And as an adult, I never wanted my own family to feel the shame I felt, rightly or wrongly, for having lived in poverty. Granted, starting your business is not for everyone, but if you've got the drive, the knowledge, the work ethic, then maybe the only thing you don't have yet is permission. So I'm giving you that permission. Go ahead. I have a lot more to say about this topic, which I'll cover in part 2. This has got to be a 2-part video. First is inspiration. The next is maybe more instructive. I'll give you more specific advice, including why I think entrepreneurs succeed and why others fail. What I think are the best types of small businesses, businesses that I wouldn't touch with a 10-foot pole, and the hows and whys of not getting bogged down by legal, accounting, and administrative tasks. I think that's one thing that works against potential entrepreneurs. We'll talk about some legal entity and tax considerations and so on. So if you're up for it, let's get started. Your future self will thank you. And hey, maybe one day you'll be telling your story about how you stopped waiting and became your own boss. Now, I've got to say this. This video is for educational and informational purposes only. I'm sharing my personal experiences and my opinions. I'm not giving financial, legal, or business advice. Always do your own research or consult a professional before making big decisions. If this video sparked something in you, drop a comment. You got a story? Please share it. Got a question? I'll try to answer it. And if you want more videos like this, like part 2 of starting your own business, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss the next one. Remember, being your own boss isn't about quitting a job. It's about building the life you actually want. I'll see you next time on Ed Talk Today.